Have you ever achieved something you've been chasing your whole life, only for the person you trust most to make you question everything about yourself? That's exactly what happened to me. And that night, I realized that even the love you've built over years can reveal shadows you never imagined. I had been working on this project for almost a decade, pouring in every ounce of energy, time, and hope I had. From 2014, I took it step by step, turning a raw idea into a real venture, earning the trust and attention of investors and partners. Every milestone was hard won, through sleepless nights, countless setbacks, and moments I almost gave up. But I didn't. I persisted, learned, built credibility, and surrounded myself with people who could support and elevate the project. And now, at this pinnacle, I wanted to share this victory with the man I had loved for 5 years, Tony. Tony, an engineer, brilliant and pragmatic, had always been my ideal since college. He understood work, had sharp analytical skills, an intellect that I admired deeply. We had plans for the future: marriage, family, raising children in a stable and loving home. I imagined that on this night, he would celebrate with me, smile, pull me into a hug, and tell me he was proud of what I had accomplished. I pictured laughter, warm restaurant lights, and heartfelt congratulations. But when I saw him at the restaurant that evening, what I got was not a smile or an embrace, but words that stabbed through my heart. "You're being unrealistic," he said. "You're biting off more than you can chew." I stared at him, stunned. I wanted to think he was just worried about me, trying to protect me in his own way, but the tone wasn't concern. It was doubt, disbelief, and a kind of disdain I had never seen in him before. I tried to explain. "Tony, I'm not overreaching. I've built this from the ground up. I have credibility, a team behind me, and solid partners supporting the project." But he didn't listen. He repeated himself, even more forcefully. "No, I don't believe it. You couldn't have gotten this far on your own. I'm worried you're fooling yourself, maybe even deceiving yourself." I wanted to cry, but no tears came. I felt numb, as if all my emotions had been sucked out, leaving only shock and disbelief. All the sleepless nights, the relentless work, the sacrifices I had made, it was all dismissed in just a few words. And then it got worse. He started questioning my integrity, suggesting I might have used relationships or connections to get ahead. I felt like I was being attacked on both fronts, career and character. I had always believed in our relationship, thinking that love and ambition could coexist, that Tony would support and celebrate me. But now I faced a painful reality. The person I trusted most was the one making me feel small, vulnerable, and hurt. I tried to make him understand that his words were disrespectful, that he was undermining my effort and capabilities, but he shrugged and said he was worried about my future, insisting that I choose between my career and us. In that moment, loneliness washed over me. I realized love wasn't just about affection, also required respect, understanding, and the ability to face challenges together. I loved Tony, yes, but I also loved myself and everything I had built. If the man I trusted couldn't see that, I had to stand up for myself and my accomplishments. That evening didn't end the way I imagined. No smiles, no hugs, no congratulations. I left the restaurant feeling hollow and heartbroken, yet a quiet determination sparked inside me. I would not let anyone, not even the person I loved most, diminish my worth. And so began a journey, not just of career achievement, but of self-respect and courage. That evening, the restaurant was softly lit. The music gentle in the background. Everything set the scene for the kind of celebratory night I had imagined. I pictured Tony smiling, raising a toast, and me sharing every detail of my project, the joy, the struggle, and the triumph after years of relentless work. I imagined a perfect evening, but reality hit me like a punch in the chest. From the moment we sat down, Tony started discussing my project, not with encouragement or curiosity, but with criticism and doubt. "You're being overambitious," he said, his tone calm yet cutting. "You don't really understand what you're stepping into." I looked at him, stunned and angry. I had prepared myself to explain, but he kept repeating himself, refusing to listen. I took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. "Tony, I've worked tirelessly, step by step. This isn't luck or favors from others. I have a team, credibility, and solid partners behind this project." But he just shrugged, as if none of it mattered. "No, I don't believe it. You couldn't have gotten this far on your own. I worry that you're fooling yourself, maybe even deceiving yourself." My chest tightened. I wanted to reach for his hand, to explain more, but every word felt weak against the storm in his eyes. All those sleepless nights, relentless work, and sacrifices erased with a few cold sentences. I had always thought Tony was rational, capable of recognizing effort. But now I realized that his emotions had overtaken his reason, and doubt had become a weapon. Then it got worse. He began questioning my integrity. He suggested I might have used connections to get ahead. My heart felt like it was being squeezed. I had faced harassment and danger in my career before, and now the person I trusted most was questioning my honesty. I wanted to shout, but my voice got lost in silence. Throughout dinner, I listened, trying to stay composed. I noticed the other diners, the clinking of forks and laughter around me, but it all felt distant, irrelevant. Every expectation I had for this celebratory evening crumbled. I felt isolated, separated from the person I once considered my ally, my partner, my safe place. After dinner, as we walked home, I tried to talk. "Tony, don't you think you're being too harsh? I just wanted to share my joy, but you're doubting me and dismissing everything I've achieved." He was silent for a moment, then said, "I'm just worried about you. You're taking on something too big, too risky. You need to understand what you're doing." His words made my chest tighten even more. He wasn't listening to my feelings, only fixated on his fears. As I replayed his words in my head, each sentence felt like a tiny dagger to my soul. I realized the problem wasn't me. It was the way he viewed me. He couldn't accept that I could be independent, capable, and ambitious all at once. When I got home, I didn't cry. I just sat alone, thinking about the years gone by, the dreams, the struggles that had led me here, and how all of it seemed dismissed because the person I loved couldn't recognize my value. I felt betrayed not by infidelity, but by baseless suspicion, disrespect, and the dismissal of everything I had worked for that night. I realized something crucial. Love, even lasting love, cannot survive without respect and trust. I loved Tony, yes, but I also had to love myself and the life I had built. If the person I trusted most couldn't see that, I had to stand up for myself. And in the quiet of the night, a determination quietly sparked. I would not let anyone, even the person I loved most, diminish my worth. The next morning, I woke up with an almost physical heaviness pressing down on my chest. as if my entire body was still struggling to recover from the shock of the previous night. I brewed myself a strong cup of coffee and sat by the window, letting the early sunlight spill over my desk. Outside, the world moved on as if nothing had happened. Calm and indifferent, but inside me, the storm hadn't even begun to settle. I tried to reason with myself, thinking maybe Tony was just worried in his own way, that perhaps things could still be okay if I stayed calm and approached him thoughtfully. But deep inside, I knew that something had shifted permanently between us. Meeting Tony later that day was like stepping into a tension-filled minefield. From the moment we made eye contact, I felt the weight of unspoken words hanging heavily between us. I tried to start gently, my voice soft but firm, attempting to build a bridge over the chasm that had formed overnight. Tony, last night, don't you think you were too harsh? I just wanted to share my happiness with you, but instead, you doubted me and said things that hurt me deeply. He looked at me with a steady, almost icy gaze and said, I don't believe you. I don't think you could have achieved all this through your own effort. I suspect something isn't right. A quiet, simmering anger began to rise in me. I had always believed that our love was built on trust and mutual respect. I didn't expect constant praise, but I did expect acknowledgement of the years of hard work, late nights, sacrifices, and the relentless determination that had brought me here. Yet here he was, questioning my integrity, as if every sleepless night, every painstaking decision, every late night of research and negotiation meant nothing. I drew a deep breath, trying to steady my voice, and said, my words trembling slightly but firm, are you seriously saying that I couldn't succeed without cheating? Or without relying on luck or favors from others? Tony, are you accusing me of cheating? He shrugged, almost casually, as though the pain in my voice didn't register. I'm just saying what I think. You know, I've been hurt before, betrayed. I don't want to be disappointed again. His words hit me like a punch to the stomach. I had known about his past, his ex-wife leaving him, his former fiancée betraying him, but I had never imagined that he would allow those old wounds to poison his perception of me. The person who had walked her own path with integrity and sheer determination. I wanted to scream, to shout that I was not that person, that I had earned everything I had achieved on my own merit, without manipulation or deception, but the words got stuck in my throat. The room felt like it was spinning. I was shocked, angry, and heartbroken all at once. I stared into his eyes, gathering every ounce of courage, and said, Tony, I've poured my entire life into this project. Every sleepless night, every difficult choice, every sacrifice was all mine. And now you're doubting me because of your past. You're treating me like I'm some kind of manipulator, as if I've orchestrated my life to deceive people. He lowered his gaze, silent for a moment, as though weighing something I couldn't see. Then he said, almost softly, I just don't want to lose you, but I need certainty. You have to choose between this project and me. You can't have both. The words felt like a knife twisting in my heart. Choosing between love and career. I had never imagined that a relationship of 5 years could come to such a crossroads. I loved him, yes, but I also loved what I had built: my independence, my achievements, my dreams. I could not abandon all of that just to make someone feel safe. His so-called choice wasn't a choice. It was an ultimatum, a trap disguised as care. I took a deep, steadying breath and emphasized each word. Tony, I cannot stand, will not give up what I've built just to ease your fears. I've loved you with all my heart, but I love myself more. If you can't trust me, then we're walking different paths. I can't stay in a relationship where I am constantly doubted and disrespected. He stared at me, silent, his eyes filled with a mix of confusion, frustration, and disappointment. I didn't know if he fully understood what I was saying, but I knew I had made my stance crystal clear. For the first time in years, I drew a firm line. No one, even the person I loved most, has the right to belittle me, my achievements, or my character. I remembered the nights I stayed up perfecting plans, negotiating deals, and presenting pitches. I remembered the relentless grind, the missed weekends, the personal sacrifices. Every single moment that had built the woman I was today. And here he was, dismissing it all, not as concern, but as doubt, as control. The anger in me surged, but so did clarity in that moment. I realized something fundamental about love and respect. Love alone is not enough. Trust, acknowledgement, and respect are non-negotiable. You can love someone, but if they cannot see your value, support your dreams, and meet you as an equal, that love becomes suffocating rather than sustaining. I stood my ground, voice calm yet resolute, eyes locking with his. Tony, I have been patient for years. I cannot continue like this. I love you, yes, but I love myself more. If you cannot be by my side with trust and respect, then we are no longer compatible. I cannot sacrifice my life, my dreams, my self-worth for someone who sees me as less than I am. The room seemed to pause in silence. He looked both shocked and frustrated, maybe even hurt, but I no longer wavered. I had found a quiet power inside myself that I had never truly acknowledged, the strength to stand up for my life, my choices, and my value, regardless of who felt uncomfortable with it that night. When I returned home alone, my heart was racing, but my soul felt lighter than it had in years. I had discovered a quiet, unshakable inner strength, the power to defend myself, to protect what I had built, and to refuse to be diminished or controlled. It was a painful lesson, but a necessary one. From that moment on, I knew that nothing would ever be the same. And as I lay in the quiet of my apartment, I realized the truth. Sometimes standing up for yourself is the only way to survive love, and the cost of not doing so is far higher than the cost of heartbreak. The next morning, I woke up with the lingering weight of yesterday pressing down on my chest. It was as if the anger, the frustration, and the heartbreak from the night before hadn't settled at all. I didn't feel like working or doing anything productive. All I wanted was a quiet corner to face my own feelings, to confront the storm inside. My morning coffee sat steaming by the window as sunlight crept in, illuminating the familiar apartment, yet everything felt altered. Normalcy was just a facade. The world outside moved on, indifferent, while my internal world had shifted irrevocably. I knew I had to talk to Tony one more time, but this time I would establish boundaries. I texted him, "We need to talk tonight, but I want a calm conversation, no blame. No accusations." Oddly enough, he replied almost immediately. His tone seemed casual, but I could sense the underlying tension. "Okay, I'll come by tonight." When he arrived that evening, I felt the pressure in the room before we even exchanged words. The living room was small, warm in its lighting, but it was heavy with unspoken tension. We sat down in silence for a few seconds before he began. I've been thinking about last night. I don't want us to fight anymore. I just worry, that's all. I listened carefully, but this time my voice was calm, measured, but firm. Tony, you need to understand that worry is not an excuse to doubt someone or hurt them. For the first time, I am clearly stating my boundary. I will not tolerate being disrespected, doubted, or forced into choosing between love and my career. He blinked, clearly caught off guard, his expression a mix of confusion and frustration. What do you mean? I looked him directly in the eyes, letting my words land with deliberate weight. I love you, Tony, but I love myself more. I've poured my life, my energy, and my heart into this project, into my dreams, and I will not abandon them to soothe your insecurities. If you cannot trust and respect me, we cannot continue together. My words hit like a controlled, deliberate strike. I could see Tony flinch, his eyes momentarily vacant as he processed the impact. I wasn't sure he fully understood what I was saying, but I knew I had held my ground. For the first time in years, I was not just loving, I was defending myself. He began to explain, his voice hesitant, trembling slightly. But I just want us to be happy together. You're the woman I love. I'm afraid of losing you. I inhaled slowly, closing my eyes for a moment to keep my temper in check. Tony, you are confusing worry with control. Love is not surveillance. Love is not forcing someone into an impossible choice, and it is not dismissing their value. I've loved you with everything I have, but I will not allow love to become a chain. The room seemed to hold its breath. Tony lowered his gaze, unable or perhaps unwilling to respond. I sensed the quiet despair in him. At the same time, I felt a subtle, painful clarity. The unspoken possibility of a breakup was hovering, lingering in the silence. I continued, my voice calm but firm. From now on, I am setting a clear boundary. I will not accept being doubted, disrespected, or put in unfair positions. If you cannot accept that, we must stop here. I cannot allow my life, my happiness, and my self-worth to be dictated by your insecurities and unfounded suspicion. Tony exhaled heavily, sitting in silence, eyes cast toward the floor. I watched him for a moment, then stood, taking a deliberate step toward the door. I need space to think and live for myself. Reflect on what you truly want, but do not expect me to come back unless there is genuine trust and respect. The evening ended in silence. I didn't scream, I didn't cry, but a wave of relief washed over me for the first time. I realized that setting boundaries is not selfish, it is the way to protect oneself and one's life. Returning to my apartment alone, my heart still raced, but my spirit felt lighter. I understood something fundamental. Love is not only about emotion. It is also about respect, trust, and the ability to see each other's value. If a person cannot do this, no matter how deep the love, the relationship cannot endure in the quiet of the night. I took out my journal and wrote down every emotion, pain, disappointment, anger, but also resolve and inner strength. I understood that from this moment onward, nothing would be the same. I had learned that standing up for yourself, defending your worth, and establishing your boundaries is sometimes the only way to protect yourself from further harm. And in the soft glow of my desk lamp, I allowed myself a small, quiet smile, not of happiness, but of determination. This relationship might end, but my life, my dreams, and my self-worth would never be diminished. I had found my strength, and from now on, no one, even the person I loved most, would have the power to reduce my value. The days following that fateful evening were a strange mix of relief and disbelief. Relief, because I had finally established boundaries for myself. Disbelief, because I realized that even a years-long love could reach a dead end if respect and trust were missing. I began to reflect on the relationship with a clearer, more sober perspective. Did we truly understand each other? Did we genuinely value one another? Tony continued to call and text constantly. His voice was calm, almost casual, but I could sense the invisible pressure behind every word, as if he wanted me to return, to apologize, or to smooth things over. I read each message, each call, feeling torn. Part of me wanted to respond. Part of me wanted to turn off my phone and ignore it all. A small part of me still loved him, but the larger, clearer part knew that love paired with doubt, control, and emotional harm is no longer love, it's a trap. One afternoon, Tony suggested we meet at our usual coffee shop. I decided to go, not to reconcile, but to speak my truth clearly and calmly. The coffee shop was small, cozy, bathed in soft light. Jazz music played in the background, creating a strange contrast with the heaviness in my chest. When Tony walked in, I immediately noticed that he, too, seemed to be restraining his emotions. He began hesitantly, I know we argued. I want to hear you, but I also want to explain. I don't want to lose you. I paused for a moment, letting the weight of silence settle, then met his eyes with a calm, steady voice. Tony, I've thought a lot about us. Love cannot exist on worry or doubt alone. I've loved you fully, but I cannot continue being with someone who cannot trust and respect me. He lowered his gaze, voice trembling slightly, but, you know, I've been hurt before. I'm scared. Scared it might happen again. I inhaled deeply, channeling all the resolve I had gathered over the past weeks. You have the right to fear, Tony, but you do not have the right to use that fear to control me, to doubt me, or to force me into choosing between love and my life. I have stood my ground, and this time I will not back down. Tony looked up, pain and disbelief etched into his features, but I could tell that no matter how much he hurt, it could not change my decision. You really mean this? He whispered. I nodded, my voice steady. We need to end this. Tony, I need space to live for myself and pursue the life I've built. If you cannot stand beside me with trust and respect, we cannot continue together. The coffee shop seemed to fall silent around us. I felt the heaviness of unspoken memories and the years we had shared. My heart ached, but I knew this was necessary. I was protecting myself, my worth, and my dreams. Tony looked down, exhaling slowly. I understand. I won't bother you anymore, but I will miss you, I nodded, a faint sting in my eyes, but my voice remained calm. I will miss you too, but we cannot continue. This is the only way I can protect myself. Walking out of the coffee shop, my heart felt heavy, yet my soul was lighter than it had been in years. I realized that breaking up is not failure, is sometimes the only necessary step to protect oneself and the future. I had learned that love is not just an emotion. It also requires respect, trust, and the ability to see each other's value. Without that, no matter how deep the love, the relationship cannot survive. Over the following days, I focused on myself. I took long walks, immersed myself in my project, and spent time with friends and colleagues. Each step I took reminded me that I deserved love and respect. But I didn't have to compromise my values to maintain a relationship that had lost its balance. I also began journaling, recording every feeling, the pain, the disappointment, the anger, but also the determination and inner strength. I realized that from now on, I would live first for myself, and any love or relationship had to start with trust and respect. One quiet evening, sitting at my desk and gazing at the flickering city lights outside my window, I whispered to myself, I'm on the right path. I have the courage to stand up for myself. Love can be lost, but self-respect and the value of my own life are eternal. For the first time in years, I felt a profound relief and a strength I had never fully recognized before. The power to defend myself and protect what I had worked so hard to build. In that moment, I knew my life was changing. I would no longer fear or doubt myself, nor be manipulated by the emotions of another. I had learned a vital lesson. Sometimes, walking away is the only way to preserve one's worth, true love, and freedom. The first days after breaking up with Tony felt like living in a strange liminal space, a place caught between relief and emptiness. Relief, because I had finally set boundaries for myself. Emptiness, because a relationship that had lasted nearly a decade had ended, leaving a hollow that seemed impossible to fill. Each morning, waking up brought a cold, subtle reminder that the life I had envisioned with him was gone. Yet, alongside the emptiness, there was an unusual sense of freedom. I no longer felt controlled, doubted, or pressured by someone whose insecurities had once dictated my emotional landscape. I could feel the liberation that had eluded me for so long, a newfound space to breathe for myself. I began dedicating more time to myself. Mornings were for walks through the nearby park, taking deep, cleansing breaths as if each inhalation was washing away the remnants of pain and tension. I observed the bustling city, the people passing by, the rhythmic pace of life, and for the first time, I saw it all with a clarity I hadn't had in years. Every step, every flicker of sunlight, became a metaphor for my own liberation. Each movement, a quiet act of reclaiming myself. I turned to journaling, a ritual that became both a sanctuary and a mirror. Each entry documented not only the lingering pain and disappointment, but also the lessons I had learned. The value of self, the power of setting boundaries, and the inner strength I hadn't fully acknowledged until now. Writing was a way to confront myself honestly, to map the journey from heartbreak to self-possession. Social interactions became a source of subtle reassurance. Meeting friends for coffee, long conversations with colleagues, sharing parts of my story, all of it reinforced a growing realization. Speaking my truth, standing firm in my convictions, and valuing myself above anyone else's approval was empowering. I no longer felt the compulsion to justify myself to Tony or to anyone who doubted my decisions. Every conversation became a testament to resilience, a quiet affirmation of self-worth. My work and personal projects became a sanctuary for growth and validation. I threw myself into meetings, discussions with investors, and the incremental steps of executing my long-cherished plans. Each small achievement brought joy and a sense of control, a reminder that life does not wait for anyone. I could navigate it according to my own rules, guided by my vision, not someone else's insecurities or judgments. One afternoon, I ran into an old friend at a cafe. We spoke about life, work, and past relationships. That conversation crystallized a truth I had been slowly arriving at. Breaking up wasn't just an escape from pain, it was a chance to see everything clearly, without the distortion of fear or manipulation. Not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay, but each encounter leaves a lesson. And Tony's presence had taught me invaluable truths about trust, respect, and self-preservation. Gradually, I started planning short trips and new experiences, exploring passions and hobbies I had neglected. I went hiking, joined outdoor yoga classes, and even tried activities I'd always wanted to do but had avoided due to fear or obligation. Every challenge, every new skill I attempted, felt like reclaiming a piece of myself I had lost. I discovered the strength of independence, the joy of self-reliance, and the quiet power in testing one's limits. I also learned to care for myself in ways I hadn't before. Eating well, exercising consistently, and carving out time for rest became essential routines. I realized that love doesn't only come from others. It begins within. When I nurtured and respected myself, I no longer needed validation from anyone else to feel worthy. My sense of value became self-sustaining, independent, and unshakable. One evening, seated in the familiar cafe, watching the city lights twinkle outside the window, I reflected on the process of healing. It wasn't just about overcoming emotional pain, it was about reclaiming my confidence, my autonomy, and my ability to steer my life forward. I began drafting long-term plans, both professional and personal, and for the first time, I felt equipped to face challenges I had once feared. I was ready to embrace opportunities that once seemed intimidating, knowing that I had the inner strength to navigate them. My career, once simply a job, had become a symbol of perseverance and personal empowerment. Each milestone, no matter how small, reaffirmed that I could stand on my own, achieve goals, and create value without reliance on someone else's approval. The critical lesson crystallized. My worth was never contingent on anyone else's perception. On a quiet evening, at my desk with the warm glow of the lamp illuminating documents and project blueprints, I closed my eyes, inhaled deeply, and smiled. I realized how far I had come, from feeling lost, hurt, and vulnerable, to understanding myself, embracing my strength, and claiming my space in the world. I had learned to stand firm, walk confidently, and recognize that my value is inherent, untouchable by anyone else. I began cautiously exploring new social interactions, not for romance, but to practice opening up while maintaining clear boundaries. I understood that the ideal relationship isn't one where I sacrifice myself. It's one built on mutual respect, trust, and support. I learned to engage with others openly, without being consumed by past disappointments or suspicions, and, importantly, to step away when respect and trust were absent. One afternoon, during an outdoor yoga session, I felt a profound shift. My body was stronger, my mind clearer, and my spirit freer. I was no longer haunted by the past, nor controlled by painful memories. Each breath, each movement, became a reminder that I had the right to live fully, to embrace joy, and to act independently. Weeks turned into months, and I poured even more energy into my project, implementing new strategies, meeting investors, and seeing tangible progress. The excitement wasn't just in professional success, it was in knowing that I could create, achieve, and thrive entirely on my own terms. True satisfaction came not from external validation, but from the autonomy and agency I had reclaimed in my life. On the weekend, sitting once more in that familiar cafe, gazing out at the glittering cityscape, I whispered to myself, I am brave enough to stand for myself. I will no longer fear, doubt, or allow anyone to manipulate my life or emotions. I smiled, a quiet, profound joy settling in my chest. I had found myself, my power, and my freedom from that moment onward. I understood that the journey ahead would still have challenges, but I would walk it with confidence, self-love, and unshakable determination. I had learned a vital truth. Sometimes, the only way to preserve your worth and freedom is to walk alone. Life would continue, and I was ready to embrace every challenge, opportunity, and joy without needing anyone else to confirm my value. I also began to reflect on what I truly wanted in a partner moving forward. I knew that love must be grounded in mutual respect, trust, and encouragement. No longer would I allow fear, suspicion, or insecurity to dictate my choices. I understood now that healthy love amplifies your own strength, never diminishes. The confidence I gained wasn't just emotionally, it transformed how I navigated daily life. I approached business meetings with assertiveness, interacted socially with ease, and even handled small setbacks with grace. Each success, each small step of independence, reinforced the message that I was capable, resilient, and deserving of respect. By the end of these months of self-discovery, I had built not only a stronger career, but a stronger sense of self. My days were filled with purpose, projects, and meaningful relationships that nurtured rather than drained me. And in those quiet moments, looking out at the city lights or feeling the cool air during an evening walk, I felt a deep sense of peace. I was no longer a person defined by past pain or the expectations of others. I was free, empowered, and ready for the next chapter of my life. After months of healing, I could feel a profound shift within myself. The lingering pain and emptiness no longer dictated my days. Each morning, I woke up with a different energy, more confident, more decisive, and ready to face any challenge. This transformation didn't just show in my career. It touched every aspect of my life, from social interactions, personal hobbies, to how I saw myself. The project I had poured years into was finally entering a critical phase. I dedicated myself fully, attending meetings with investors, presenting detailed plans, and answering questions with clarity and confidence. Every time I saw their approving nods, I felt a surge of exhilaration. This wasn't just personal success. It was a validation of perseverance and relentless effort. One late afternoon, after wrapping up a particularly intense meeting, I stepped out of the conference room, inhaled deeply, and smiled. I realized how much I had grown since the days before Tony. Years of heartbreak and doubt had taught me to stand firm, to make decisions with clarity, and to pursue my goals without seeking anyone else's approval. I was stronger, wiser, and more resilient than ever. In the following weeks, I expanded my social interactions intentionally. I met friends, connected with colleagues, and began attending professional events related to my field. Even small networking gatherings began to open doors I hadn't imagined before. Meeting like-minded people, those who shared insights, inspiration, and encouragement reminded me that when you stand strong and radiate confidence, the right opportunities naturally appear. A turning point came unexpectedly when I was invited to attend an international conference in my industry. It was a chance to meet top experts, explore potential collaborations, and connect with global partners. Initially, I felt a mix of excitement and anxiety, but then I reminded myself, this is my opportunity. I deserve to step into the world and showcase my capabilities. The conference was held in a bustling city, modern and full of life. As I walked into the main hall, I felt the energy of everyone around me, confident, ambitious, and focused. There was no pressure or intimidation this time, only determination and curiosity. Listening to presentations, exchanging ideas, and networking opened a new world of possibilities. During one of the sessions, I met a fellow entrepreneur, founder of a tech startup. He was passionate, knowledgeable, and had a sharp perspective on the industry. We talked about our projects, shared challenges, and brainstormed potential solutions. Hours passed like minutes, our conversation flowing effortlessly. I sensed that this connection was meaningful not because it was romantic, but because it was inspiring. Here was someone who could challenge me, support growth, and yet never try to control my life. Emotionally, I was also opening myself up, cautiously, not to fall in love immediately, but to relearn trust and connection based on respect and safety. I understood now that a healthy relationship didn't demand sacrifice of self. It was a partnership where both parties grew and thrived. And this time, I wasn't afraid, knew my boundaries, and would not let anyone cross them. Returning from the conference, I brought back not only professional opportunities, but also a renewed sense of energy and hope. My project began moving faster, investors showed more enthusiasm, and I could clearly see the tangible value of my efforts. I realized that when I committed fully, trusted myself, and stepped beyond my comfort zone, doors opened that I hadn't imagined existed. One evening, sitting on my balcony and looking at the city lights twinkling below, I felt a deep sense of peace. I whispered to myself, "I've come a long way. I've learned to stand up for myself, love myself, and find joy in what I create. I will not return to situations that hurt me." In that moment, I understood that true strength comes from within, from the ability to stand on your own, to embrace your life fully, and to take pride in your achievements. Gradually, a new life rhythm emerged. Busy, fulfilling workdays, evenings for hobbies and personal projects, weekends for short trips and meaningful social interactions. I no longer dwelled on the past. Instead, I focused on creating, learning, and experiencing life fully. Joy, freedom, and personal fulfillment became my most cherished companions. Part 7 marks a crucial turning point. The protagonist is not just emotionally healed, but advancing professionally, encountering new opportunities, and tentatively exploring meaningful connections. This sets the stage for the next chapter's significant career achievements and decisions in love, keeping the audience engaged with the audio story over the course of an hour. After returning from the international conference, I was filled with an indescribable sense of exhilaration. My project was no longer just an idea scribbled on paper or a distant dream. It had become a living, breathing entity with the potential to make a real impact and open up significant opportunities. I could feel, more than ever, that the years of effort, perseverance, and determination were finally being recognized. Investors started reaching out more frequently, requesting in-depth meetings and showing excitement about the progress I was making. Each milestone I achieved felt like passing a new test, a confirmation of my capabilities. I no longer felt the need to prove anything to Tony or anyone else. Now, the only validation that mattered was my own. One morning, walking into the office, I saw an email that made my heart race. An invitation to collaborate with a strategic international partner. The mix of nervousness and excitement coursed through me. This was the opportunity I had dreamed of. A crucial step toward taking my project global. I sat down, closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and reminded myself, I've earned this. I deserve this opportunity. Success, I realized, wasn't just about numbers or signed contracts. It was the feeling of confidence and agency I had discovered within myself. I had become the driver of my own life, each decision, each action reflecting the strength, resilience, and determination I had cultivated through years of hardship. As I advanced my project, I also learned the value of social connections. Certain friends and colleagues became mentors, offering insights, alternative perspectives, and inspiration. I realized that career growth wasn't just about individual effort. It was about building a network of support, knowing when to listen, and collaborating strategically, emotionally. I began to open up cautiously, not for immediate romance, but to recognize people worthy of trust and respect. One evening, at a networking event, I met Alex, a fellow professional in my field. He was intelligent, passionate, and had a remarkably thoughtful perspective on problems. Our conversation started with work, but soon branched into shared hobbies, travel experiences, and life philosophies. This time, unlike before, fear and suspicion didn't dictate my interactions. I understood that a healthy connection isn't about sacrifice, it's about mutual growth. I learned to open up while maintaining boundaries, knowing when to trust and when to stay cautious. This connection felt natural, comfortable, and energizing, rather than stressful or anxiety-inducing. In the following weeks, the project accelerated rapidly. I finalized contracts with international partners, received glowing feedback from investors, and began executing market expansion strategies. Every step was deliberate, yet I felt a new sense of freedom. Freedom to take risks, to innovate, and to prove my abilities. Confidence had become an inseparable part of who I was. One evening, working late in my office and gazing at the city lights, I whispered to myself, I've moved from heartbreak to strength, from doubt to confidence. I've found my value and learned how to protect it. A sense of joy and peace washed over me, unlike anything I had felt in years. For the first time in a long time, I truly felt in control of my life. During this period, my relationship with Alex evolved naturally. We supported each other professionally, shared experiences, and explored common interests. There was no pressure, no jealousy, no suspicion, just mutual respect, trust, and encouragement. I realized that emotional connection could grow alongside career ambitions, but only if it was based on understanding, communication, and freedom. The climax of Part 8 wasn't just about professional success. It was about recognizing my self-worth, opening up to potential love, and stepping into a stage of life where I truly felt empowered. This was the moment I was no longer bound by the past, shaping my future on my own terms, with authority, confidence, and excitement. Finally, sitting on the balcony, looking out at the city at night, I realized that all the effort, challenges, and past pain had led me here, to a place where I could stand tall, confident, ready for any opportunity. I understood that the journey ahead would still have hurdles, but this time I would walk it with power in my hands, freedom in my soul, and unwavering trust in myself. The following months were a whirlwind of busy, exhilarating days. My project had transformed from a distant idea into a real entity making an impact on the international stage. Key contracts were signed, investors expressed trust and enthusiasm, and each step forward brought an indescribable sense of pride. There was no doubt, no pressure from anyone else. Every achievement was a testament to my abilities, determination, and perseverance One morning, walking into the office, I received news from an international partner that they wanted to expand our collaboration into new markets. My heart raced, a wide smile spread across my face, and a profound sense of joy washed over me. I whispered to myself, I did it. I've proven to myself that all the effort was worth it. In that moment, I realized that success wasn't just about metrics or contracts, it was about acknowledging my own value, feeling confident in the path I had chosen. During this period, my relationship with Alex also evolved in a natural, emotionally fulfilling way. We discussed the next steps for our projects, shared challenges, and supported each other professionally and personally. There was no pressure, no doubt, no competition, just respect, trust, and encouragement. I came to understand that a meaningful relationship is one where both people uplift each other, rather than hold each other back. One evening, sitting on the balcony of my apartment, gazing at the sparkling city lights, I reflected on the journey I had taken from heartbreak, doubt, and pressure to strength, confidence, and mastery over my life. I realized that all those hardships had been invaluable, helping me grow and understand myself more deeply than ever. I smiled, exhaled softly, and promised myself that from now on, every decision would stem from my own understanding, values, and aspirations. The professional climax reached its peak when the project won an International Innovation Award. The ceremony was held in an elegant venue, attended by leaders, experts, and colleagues from around the world. When my name was announced, I walked up to the stage, heart pounding with anticipation and pride. In that moment, every sleepless night, every past struggle, every challenge seemed to converge into pure joy and fulfillment. I realized that perseverance, determination, and the ability to stand firm had brought me to this pinnacle, beyond professional success. I also recognized the importance of emotional fulfillment. With Alex, I found a partner who understood, respected, and encouraged me. We shared our visions for the future, exchanged dreams and plans, and felt a genuine connection free of pressure, doubt, or comparison. This time, I knew I was choosing a relationship grounded in balance, respect, and security, qualities I had lacked in the past. One evening, walking together through a park, the streetlights reflecting on the water, I realized I was truly ready to love again, but not at the cost of myself. I knew my boundaries, understood the value of autonomy, and was capable of protecting myself within a relationship. The joy of opening up, sharing, and supporting one another was completely different from past experiences. It was light, natural, and filled with positive energy. Part 9 represents the full climax. The protagonist has achieved professional success, recognized their personal worth, and opened the door to a new emotional connection that aligns with their maturity and confidence. It also sets the stage for Part 10, the conclusion, where the protagonist will decide how to move forward in life and love, delivering a message about independence, confidence, and true happiness. Finally, sitting by the window and looking at the city at night, I let out a soft sigh and smiled. Everything had changed. I had overcome pain, doubt, and pressure. I had found confidence, empowerment, and the ability to steer my own life. I knew challenges still lay ahead, but now I walked forward with power in my hands, peace in my heart, and unwavering trust in myself. I woke up one morning to the soft sunlight filtering through the curtains, spilling warmth into my apartment and reflecting the bustling city outside. The feeling was unlike anything I had known before. Gone were the days of anxiety, doubt, or external pressures. Now there was only peace, self-assurance, and a profound sense of control. Every breath, every thought, every action came from me, from the values, dreams, and strength I had cultivated over the years. I knew from that moment that I was the one steering my life. The project had surpassed all expectations. Critical contracts with international partners were signed. Investors' excitement and confidence in the endeavor soared, and the project even won an International Innovation Award. Each accomplishment, each milestone, wasn't just the result of hard work. It was proof of my resilience, persistence, and ability to overcome obstacles. I whispered to myself, I've come a long way, and I deserve every bit of this. The pride and joy that coursed through me weren't solely about the professional achievements. They were about confidence and self-recognition. I no longer needed validation from anyone else, and I was no longer influenced by the doubts or skepticism of others. I had learned to trust my judgment, honor my values, and understand that both career and happiness are rooted in my own agency. During this time, my relationship with Alex evolved naturally and deeply. We collaborated on projects, supported one another in our careers, and shared personal challenges and aspirations. I realized that a healthy relationship isn't about sacrificing yourself. It's about uplifting, supporting, and inspiring each other. There was no pressure, no suspicion, no comparison, just respect, trust, and encouragement. One afternoon, we walked together through the park, leaves crunching softly beneath our feet, the golden light of the setting sun reflecting on the lake. Alex held my hand and said, "I'm proud of everything you've accomplished, and I know you deserve all that you've achieved." His words were simple, yet profoundly meaningful. I recognized that true love isn't about control or dominance, it's about companionship, respect, and mutual support. This was the relationship I had longed for, a sustainable, healthy connection filled with positive energy. The professional climax also reached its zenith. My project was not only internationally recognized, but began to make tangible impacts on the market. I was invited to speak at major conferences, sharing my journey and inspiring young professionals chasing their dreams. Every time I stood before an audience, I felt confident and fulfilled, not to prove anything to anyone, but to validate my own abilities. The joy came from witnessing the project's growth, its positive influence on communities, and the sense that every effort had been worthwhile. On a personal level, I started cherishing the simple yet precious moments. Quiet evenings walking together, long conversations filled with laughter and sharing, casual dinners that carried warmth and connection. I learned that true happiness doesn't come from material wealth or external recognition. It comes from inner peace, confidence in oneself, and the ability to choose relationships, work, and experiences aligned with one's values. One evening, sitting on the balcony overlooking the city lights, I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and exhaled slowly. I told myself, I've journeyed from heartbreak, doubt, and pressure to strength, confidence, and true happiness. I am no longer afraid, no longer uncertain, and I know the life I'm building today is the life I've chosen. In that moment, I felt the full weight of serenity, freedom, and power within myself. Over the following months, Alex and I continued to explore new opportunities, traveling together, participating in creative projects, and supporting each other's careers. Our connection wasn't solely emotional. It was rooted in shared goals, respect, and synchronicity. We became a source of inspiration for each other, pushing one another to be the best versions of ourselves. I also devoted time to nurturing other social connections, colleagues, and like-minded peers. I realized that a fulfilling life isn't only about professional success or romantic love. It also requires genuine social bonds, meaningful conversations, and shared experiences with people who value and respect you. This final chapter encapsulates the protagonist's journey, achieving international career success, finding a sustainable and healthy romantic relationship, and fully recognizing personal worth. The story conveys a powerful message about independence, self-confidence, agency, and true happiness. A perfect conclusion for a 1-hour storytelling audio video. Finally, sitting by the window and watching the city lights reflect off the river, I smiled and closed my eyes, taking it all in the strength, freedom, happiness, and faith in myself. I knew challenges would still arise, but this time, I walked forward with power in my hands, peace in my heart, and unwavering belief in my own abilities. I had discovered true happiness, joy that stemmed from within, grounded in who I am, and not reliant on anyone or any circumstance.